We'll hear from Cody Cook. Cody Cook is a clinical behavioral specialist with Nice Unger Center's clinical support services, and he'll be discussing the value of teamwork between the individual, direct support professionals, and other team members in supporting those with intellectual and developmental disabilities and mental health conditions.
Good morning, everyone. How are you guys? Pleasure to be with you. I'm going to be going through the individual, the DSP, and the team connection with everyone. So I am going to share my screen here. You guys should be able to see that. So our objectives today are define person-centered planning, identify key team members, identify barriers and describe strategies to improve communication, describe how to build positive relationships, and identify ways DSPs can advocate for their clients. So we're first going to talk about some person-centered planning. The voice of the individual leads to the planning of services and supports, right? We always want to, whenever we're developing any plans, supports, really take into consideration what is important to the person and what they value. So thinking about what the person wants and needs rather than what we want for them. Oftentimes we try to impose what we think is best for people, but we really need to stand back and think about what's important to them rather than what we want for them. Services and support should focus on the person's strengths. What is important to the person and how do they like to receive help? Different people, are more comfortable receiving help in various different ways. So finding how they best receive help is important. This information can be found in the Ohio Individual Service Plan or the OISP as we know it. So person-centered planning in action. So what are services and supports? So these might be programs and resources that are used by the individual. This could be counselors. This could be, self-advocacy groups, things like that. Instructions on how to best help the individual. So key notes on how to maybe interact with that person, phrases to avoid, ways to speak to them, demeanors to approach that person with. List of important people and places and things. So we know what that person values and who their group and their support system are. And then what is my role as a DSP? So hopefully to provide daily support to that individual, help the individual make progress towards their goals, and share information during the planning process. As the DSP, you are oftentimes the person that is with the client or the person the most. You are going to best know the details and the nuances about that person. So who is the team? Typically, we're always going to have a county board official. We're going to have a provider agency. This could be a home provider, it could be an independent provider, it could be ADS programs, as you see, day programs or schools as well. Usually a family or a guardian, could be a court-appointed guardian or a family member. And then any healthcare professionals or counseling. We always want to have medical as part of that team when we can. Communication. Communication is key to success. Regardless of the individual's ability to communicate, a person can always communicate in one form or another. So talk to the person you are supporting. Talk with the supervisors about your role. Tell someone if you need help or if things are not working. Again, you are the feet on the ground. You are the first ones to know if something is not working or if something is going great, or if you've, kind of discovered something that really works well. Make sure you're sharing that information. But also, when things do happen, unforeseen circumstances, writing those detailed incident reports so you can inform the team of exactly what did happen. Talk to team members when you do see them. And then if you would prefer not to talk to them or not to talk if you would prefer not to talk or not talk in front of the person you support, send an email or some kind of written statement instead. This may be best in times when you don't want to speak about a particular incident in front of a client. You don't want to upset them, embarrass them, things like that. So why is communication so hard? Oftentimes we face struggles like limited time with team members, often frequent staffing changes. We know that there is a lot of turnover in our industry, which can make communication hard. Different communication styles. Some people email, there's sometimes language barriers, there's just different communication styles. But also verbal and nonverbal communicators. This could be true to clients you're working with, but also team members as well. Different people communicate different ways. Language differences, as I mentioned, and just unclear roles and expectations, maybe for you as the DSP, but also for other team members as well. And just remember, communication, it is more than just words. So when you are working with someone, it is very important to be aware of your tone, your voice, your volume, but also your facial expressions, your body language. You know, we half of, if not more, of all communication is nonverbal. It's a person seeing how you're delivering that message, and that is either a win or a strike against you right from the beginning. But also be a good listener. Once you are, in that communication mode with someone, make sure you're giving them time to fully advocate, to fully express their thoughts and feelings. Maybe offer ideas, but also be open to feedback as well when you're communicating. And also don't hesitate to ask questions. You won't know the answers unless you ask. Oops, sorry. And just remember, relationships matter. Would you take advice from a stranger or someone you know? Who do you trust and why do you trust them? Things to think about when you're developing these relationships with those you work with and building that rapport. Do you want a stranger helping you get dressed? I mean, think about that awkward position of a DSP fresh on their feet, new in the house, and all of a sudden your role as a DSP is to step in and help this person get dressed. That is an incredibly, vulnerable time for that person. And we want to make sure that the client is as comfortable as they can be during that. So would you want to know who was in your house at night as well? Just building up these comfort features, and we build up that comfort just through building that rapport. So also think about, do you want to know who is helping with your child if you're looking at this from a guardian perspective, guardian point of view? So building that relationship up with the parents, but also who do you talk to when you are upset as a DSP? So who's in your command or who's next in command for you when you're feeling overwhelmed or not sure and you need, a sounding board to go to. So we're going to talk about building relationships now. Obviously, the first and foremost is getting to know the person. Talk to them or communicate with them about what their day may look like, what an ideal day is, what a bad day is. Really try to figure out the range for them. Figure out common activities that you guys like to do together. Oftentimes, if you're interested in it let's say you're interested in baking or cooking, try to get that client involved with it, especially if it's something you're good at. If you're not so good at it, I wouldn't recommend it. But if it's something you're good at, try to get that client involved so that you're building that relationship with them, but also play upon their interests. Maybe they're really into OSU football, so you're brushing up on the games, who's playing, and all that stuff. So you have those conversation points when you're working with them. Introduce yourself on the very first day and when you meet team members. So oftentimes, I personally will walk into homes and I always introduce myself because I'm a random stranger coming in often. But I notice staff members don't always proactively give their name. So just remember, I don't know you when I'm walking in. I'd love to get to know you. So remember to introduce yourself, especially to team members, not just the clients. And talk to family when they visit. This is a common concern I hear from family members throughout my work with them, is that often staff will act like family isn't there. And I think from a DSP perspective, you're trying to respect and cherish their time with their child. But at the same time, they want the updates from you. They want the info. They want to know what's going on. And also, one of the best things you can do is share good news whenever we can. Also, remember, part of your role is advocating for your clients. Speak up if something is wrong. This is true for even little things. If you notice that the person's just demeanor is a little bit off, it's important to bring that up in conversation. You're going to be the first one to notice it. Write those incident reports and communicate changes in behaviors or routines. This helps us get ahead if there is any medical concerns or medication concerns, anything like that. Situational concerns that, the more early communication we have, the better we can get ahead of that. Don't ever hesitate to ask for house meetings. If you're seeing something suspicious, maybe your coworkers are seeing it as well, and you guys can collaborate and maybe get to the root of what the cause is. If you are feeling like you're a little overwhelmed and you need a little bit more guidance, always ask for more training. There are so many resources out there that can further your, education on certain topics. but also share your thoughts and feelings with the team. We can't, a team can't fix or can't find a resolution to a situation or come up with a game plan unless they know it's a problem or a situation or something that needs resolved. Any questions? Please feel free to reach out to my supervisor, Kelly Barnett at osumc.edu. And that is my time. Thank you guys. I greatly look forward to working with all of you. I am not sure how to stop sharing.
Thank you so much, Cody, for that overview and the importance on the team effort that our work involves. I'd like to invite our participants to think about questions that they might have or reinforce anything that they just heard that is really important in their own practice or strategies that they use to support communication. One of the big things that stood out to me, and it often goes unspoken, is that communication is more than just words. And of course, when you're building a team and working with different people, people have different communication preferences and how they receive information, how they provide information to others. I'm wondering if we have any comments from participants or questions. And I'm also working to pull down your share as well.
Cody, if I can say, I put in there the technology. I know we all we all think that there's people who have personal needs, but having the camera in the front door and where somebody can see who's coming in right off their phone, it really makes them feel like they're more in control. Just to let you know that part of technology.
Yeah, absolutely. Technology is playing a huge role in the lives of those we work with, and I'm very interested in the next few years how much integration we really will see out of that. Sorry.
Hey Cody, I put mine in the chat, but I'm not sure. I'll go ahead and just voice it. Thank you so much for that presentation. I think it's so helpful to think about some of those strategies and stopping and actually thinking about how we do them. And that's kind of my question is, do you have any like advice or tips if someone's coming into a home or meeting a client for the first time, how to like learn about the communication styles of the team, of the client, the consumer? What are some tips that you found helpful for that?
Yeah, first tip is to read that OISP before you go into the home. That's going to be key. You want to know those triggers, know those nuances, and all of that's going to be in the OISP. Before I ever go into a home, I always try to reach out to either a team member or someone that is close to that person just to get the nitty gritty. Give me the details of this person, and also I always ask for some talking points. What can I use to make this person feel comfortable with me, basically? So I think just speaking with those that are directly involved with them ahead of time will help you kind of get ahead of the curve with that.
I like that other strategy of like, how can I get a little bit of an in at the beginning, right? Start about leaning into interests. And like, again, right? If you know the client loves OSU football, just throwing something like that in there is a great tip. Thanks.
Absolutely.
Yeah, I also like that tip of building the rapport through finding not necessarily common interests, but what that person is interested about. And that's a great segue into breaking down barriers and getting to know someone on a more personal level. I want to share a couple ideas, and I also, before I actually do that, I also want to, again, welcome everybody to this community of practice. I want everybody to feel comfortable and engaging and expressing and sharing the knowledge that you've built in your own practice. We really value hearing from everybody and do encourage everyone to turn their cameras on and also, if you haven't already, you can share your title, your role, your organization in the chat so we can learn more about who this community is that we're coming together with, and maybe support your own networking through this process as well. I did like Christine's mention of technology and utilizing and finding technology tools that help support communication. I have a few examples, and I'm wondering if anybody is using specific technology tools to support communication with your teams to bring everybody together asynchronously in offline chats. To Andrea's question, great question about learning preferences. One assessment that I've used in the past is the VARK questionnaire. I have added, there's two different versions of it. This one is intended for younger people, but it is essentially just has a reduced reading level to another version of the assessment that they use. And it's a series of multiple choice questions where you could work with someone and help identify whether they're a visual, oral, read, write, or kinesthetic type of learner. How do they prefer to receive and communicate information as a tool that you might use? In another project here at Nice Center, we've developed a mental health therapy toolkit, one of which is a template that you can go through, and it includes conversations and discussions about what is a person's preferences and what types of accommodations or support needs they might have to get at those types of critical issues. Technology that's being used, preferences that are being used. Let me open it back up to the group. Does anybody have comment on that? Technology tools that you're already using or other strategies that help support that team building communication in your own practice?
See in the chat, Andrew, that Nikki's saying some groups of staff have used apps to stay in communication with each other, such as GroupMe.
Great. Yeah, thanks for pointing that out. I'm familiar with GroupMe. There's so many out there. Sometimes it's hard to narrow it down, but GroupMe is a nice way to bring teams together. Anybody else have an example of a technology tool that they use to support that? See another comment in the chat. For brand new staff going to support an individual for the first time, can be going in an hour early to spend time with the outgoing staff to get to know the person before the staff leaves. Yeah, great strategy to support right transition between staff, and again, it builds out that team as well. People that you can maybe reach out to when the time is necessary. Great idea. Christine, I see your hand is raised. Go ahead.
Sometimes it's good to do the about me profile and or using a one of the charting the life course tools as an idea, so then people can create this profile more than just this your Ohio individual service plan, because that thing's long. So to be short on key points about you, your sensory issues, what do you like, what makes a good day, what doesn't make a good day, and stuff. It's a good tool to use, and that's a short version.
That's great. Thanks for throwing out that other resource. Charting the Life course includes a series of worksheets that you can work together with teams to kind of build that rapport. Wondering if anybody has any experience with that, if that's something new that they've heard about. That's okay. We'll
Andrew,
keep.
I know one thing that during trainings with new staff that sometimes happens with some agencies I work with, which I think is absolutely great, is often my clients will actually sit in on the first part of the training with any new staff just to kind of give, hey, this is what I like, this is what I don't like, and really involving them in that process. What I have seen is that my clients kind of feel like they're part of the selection process then of who might be coming into their home a little bit. And I think that is really beneficial as well.
Great points. Great point there as well. And some other resources, the Charting the Life course. See, Andrea's added those to the chat as well to continue kind of building out your toolkit and things that you can refer to in supporting that communication, learning about one another. And, all of these tools are things that teams can do together. It's not necessarily, right, the VARC questionnaire supports it's a self-assessment to learn about our communication preferences, but it's not necessarily something that just right the individual does. It's something that everyone on the team can do, and that is a way to help support. Well, I'm more of a visual learner. I do like to read and follow instructions, but diagrams and visual supports. And many people are mostly multimodal. They like information in different ways, but it's a great way to get to learn one another as well, and just kind of opens up those conversations that you can have with people. Any other participants like to share anything that they drew from this initial didactic presentation, or other additional strategies that you're using to enhance that team building or communication amongst your team? And I realize that this is our first session coming together as a community, and maybe we're mostly strangers, so we're still breaking the ice a little bit. But again, we want everybody to really feel empowered to share your expertise. And that's why, as we come together, we recognize the expertise that everybody brings to this community. And so, again, we just want to continue to encourage you to feel comfortable sharing that with others and teaching and learning one another about what's working well, and maybe even challenges that you're having. This is a great community to come together. And as we move into that case study, that is kind of the main focus here. Is here's a particular case where we have challenges or barriers that we're experiencing, and we come together to ask questions to gather from your perspective, from where you're sitting contextually across these different settings in the state, what's working well for you to overcome some of these barriers. So I have one more comment in the chat. In our site, we always send a staff to go shadow train with the regular staff so they know what to do and get familiarized with the individuals that we're working with. So kind of similar to that idea of that handoff in between different groups of staff, but also really providing that work-based learning experience on the job type of training. Another great strategy. Thank you all for sharing in that. So at this time, we'll go ahead and transition